Graham.
Thank you, Judge. Again, congratulations. I want to talk to you a little bit about family and faith because in your opening statement and the people who introduced you to the committee, there was very glowing praise of you as a person, a good friend. You have a wonderful family. You should be proud, and your faith matters to you. What faith are you, by the way?
Senator, I am Protestant.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Non-denominational.
Okay. Could you fairly judge a Catholic?
Senator, I have a record of
I think
fairly
the answer would be yes.
judging everyone.
I believe you can. I'm just asking this question because how important is your faith to you?
Senator, personally, my faith is very important. But as you know, there's no religious test in the Constitution under Article 6, and
there will be none with me.
And it's very important to set aside one's personal views about things in the role of a judge.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I believe you can. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how faithful would you say you are in terms of religion? You know, I go to church probably 3 times a year, so that speaks poorly of me. Or do you attend church regularly?
Well, Senator, I am reluctant to talk about my faith in this way just because I want to be mindful of the need for the public to have confidence in my ability to separate out my personal views.
Well, how would you feel if a senator up here said, your faith, a dogma lives loudly within you, and that's of concern? How would you feel if somebody up here on our side said, you know, you attend church too much for me, or your faith is a little bit different to me, and they would suggest that it would affect your decision? Would you find that offensive?
Senator,
I would if I were you. I found it offensive when they said it about Judge Barrett. The reason I ask these questions is I have no doubt that your faith is important to you, and I have zero doubt that you can adjudicate people's cases fairly if they're an atheist. If I had any doubt, I would say so. But the only reason I mention this, Judge, you're reluctant to talk about it because it's uncomfortable. Just imagine what would happen if people on late-night television called you an effing nut, speaking in tongues because you've practiced the Catholic faith in a way they couldn't relate to or found uncomfortable. So, Judge, you should be proud of your faith. I am convinced that whatever faith you have and how often you go to church, it will not affect your ability to be fair. And I just hope going in the future that we all can accept that, and that Judge Barrett, I thought, was treated very, very poorly. So I just wanted to get that out. Let's talk about family. Do you know Janice Rogers Brown?
yes, I do know her.
Okay, how do you know her?
She was a judge on the court that I now serve. We didn't overlap, and I'm struggling to remember whether I ever met her, but she was a judge on the circuit court.
Right, and you were a district court judge, is that right?
I was, but I don't know whether she had
I think you were.
retired
Are they in the
time.
same building?
They are in the same building.
Okay.
They are.
So you really don't know her?
I know of her, yes.
Okay. What do you know of her? What's her reputation?
I know that she's a very well-respected judge on my circuit.
Okay. And in terms of family, she was the daughter and granddaughter of sharecroppers. She was raised in Alabama under Jim Crow. Despite this adversity, she put herself through law school as a single working mother. That's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yes, Senator.
Your background is very impressive. You seem to have a great family. If family mattered, we would not have done to her what was done to her here in the United States Senate. Do you realize that she was filibustered for 2 years when she was appointed to the D.C. Circuit?
I didn't know that.
Did you know that Joe Biden actively filibustered Janice Rogers Brown?
I did not know that.
Did you know that he told Face the Nation, if Bush nominates her for the Supreme Court, I can assure you that would be a very, very, very difficult fight, and she probably would be filibustered. Is that news to you, too?
Yes.
Okay. Now that you know that, how do you feel about it?
Senator, I can't speak to something that I just learned 2 seconds ago in your
Okay, fair enough.
conversation with me.
Fair enough. You're in the Black Law School Society, right? At
The
Harvard?
Black Law Students Association.
Okay, Black Law Student Association.
Yes.
You're a member at Harvard.
Yes.
And in sometime, the Mr. Jeffries thing, do you remember that whole dust-up? He got...
Only in preparation for this, and I think I was in college at the time. It was my senior year of college.
Okay, so you weren't actually in the group when he was invited to speak?
I don't know which group invited him to speak. I was a black student at Harvard, both in the Harvard Undergraduate Black Students Association and the Harvard Law School Black
Right.
Students Association.
Do you remember going to a speech given by Mr. Jeffries? I think he's the uncle of Akeem Jeffries.
I did not go to a speech
Okay.
given by Mr. Jeffries.
Are you now familiar with the press reports about what Mr. Jeffries' views are?
Just in preparation for this.
Okay, and do you associate yourself with those views?
I do not, Senator.
As a matter of fact, he's been called by many as very anti-Semitic. He called you skunk who stink up the place. You don't agree with that, do you?
I do not, Senator.
And it would be wrong for me or anybody else to hold his statement against you because he spoke at some group you're a member of, right?
Senator, I don't have, yes.
It would be, yeah, that's right. That's the right answer. I thought that was the right answer with Judge Alito. When they made a big deal about some group he was in that had views that he didn't agree with and tried to call him basically a racist, and found out that Senator Kennedy, God rest his soul, who beat the crap out of the guy for being part of some supper club that was actually in some organization called the OWL that didn't admit women. So I guess the reason I'm bringing all this up is it gives me a chance to remind this committee in America there are two standards going on here. If you're an African-American conservative woman, you're fair game to have your life turned upside down, to be filibustered no matter how qualified you are. And if you express your faith as a conservative, all of a sudden you're an effing nut. And we're tired of it. And it's not going to happen to you. But it just appalls me that we can have such a system in America, that if a conservative woman wants to stand out and say, I love my family just as much as you love yours, and my faith means just as much to me as it does you, that all of a sudden there comes some kind of weirdo. And a guy like Justice Alito, who's in the same type situation you're in, being in a group, doesn't agree with everything they do or what people may say at a meeting he didn't go to, all of a sudden they own it. You know, this stuff needs to stop. Our people deserve better respect, and I hope when this is over, people will say you were at least well treated, even if we don't agree with you. So now let's talk about Gitmo. Being a public defender, did you consider that rewarding?
Senator, yes, I did, because public service is very important to me. It is an important family value. It is something that now I've dedicated my career to.
Yes. And do you think it's important to the system that everybody be represented?
Absolutely. It's a core constitutional value.
You'll get no complaint from me. That was my job in the Air Force. I was a area defense counsel. I represented anybody that came in the door, whether I liked them or not. I did my best. Is that what you did?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now, so the American people deserve a system where everybody's represented, where you like them or not, and anybody that takes up that cause, no problem with me. You're just doing your job, and I think you make our country stronger. But there's the other side of the story that never gets mentioned when I talk about Gitmo. The American people deserve a system that can keep terrorists off the battlefield. They deserve a system that understands the difference between being at war and a crime. Do you consider 9/11, you said, a terrible, tragic event? Would you consider it an act of war?
Yes, Senator.
Okay, I would too. I think it was an act of war by Al-Qaeda and associated groups against the people of the United States. So as you rightfully are proud of your service as a public defender, and you represented Gitmo Detainees, which is part of our system, I want you to understand, and the nation to understand, what's been happening at Gitmo. What's the recidivism rate at Gitmo?
Senator, I'm not aware.
It's 31%. How does that strike you? Is that high, low, about right?
I don't know how it strikes me overall.
You know how it strikes me? It strikes me as terrible.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Okay, good. We found common ground. Of the 229 detainees released from Gitmo, of 729 released, 229 have gone back to the fight. Here's some of the notables. Former Gitmo detainee Zakir was named the interim defense minister of Afghanistan. I don't know exactly what his job is today, but during the transition, they made him the defense minister, and he was in Gitmo. Of the 5 men we released from Gitmo as part of the prisoner swap for Sergeant Bergdale, here's where they're at. Mohammed Fazal was appointed Deputy Minister of Defense. Noor was appointed Acting Minister of Borders and Tribal Affairs. Waziki was appointed as Acting Intelligence Director. Kerr, again, Acting Minister of Information, Culture, Defense. Omar was appointed as the new governor of the southeastern province of Khost. These were 5 people that we had in our control that are now helping the Taliban run the country. Would you say that our system in terms of releasing people needs to be re-looked at?
Senator, what I'd say is that that's not a job for the courts in this way. That
as an American, does that bother you?
Well, obviously, Senator, any repeated criminal behavior or repeated attacks, acts of war, bother me as an American.
Well, it bothers me. While I will not hold it against you, nor should I, the fact that you represent Gitmo detainees, I think it's time to look at this system new, folks. When 31% of the people are going back to fight to kill Americans and now running the Taliban government, we have gone wrong somewhere. Are we still at war?
So the AUMF, the authorization for military force, is still in effect. Congress has authorized the use of force against people in this way.
But do you personally believe that Al-Qaeda, ISIS-type groups are still at war with us?
I think, yes. I mean, I think we...
So we're still in a state of war with certain elements of radical Islam to this very day?
I believe that's documented, yes.
Okay. Now, what's the process to determine whether one's an enemy combatant under our law?
Well, I believe that the executive branch makes an assessment of whether or not someone is taking up arms against the United States somewhere in the world related to all of this.
Okay, so it's an executive branch function to determine whether or not this person qualifies as an enemy combatant.
Well, I believe that they make a
under current law.
Under current law, I believe that determination is made by the executive branch, and the person is detained, and then the question becomes whether they are able to bring some sort of legal challenge to that
They have a habeas
determination.
right.
Yes.
Okay, so the law is that the executive branch determines if you're an enemy combatant, and under our law, you can appeal that decision to a federal court through habeas. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. Is it your view that we can hold enemy combatants as long as they're a threat to the United States?
I believe that's what the Supreme Court has determined.
Okay. Did you argue that that should not be the case before in an amicus brief?
I'm trying to think. I had 2 amicus briefs that I worked on, or 3 technically, but 2 different cases.
Well, we'll have another visit tomorrow. So
Yes.
Go back and check.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that in your brief you argued that the executive branch should not have the ability to hold an enemy combatant indefinitely. You need to try them through some process or release them.
Yes, Senator. As you were talking, my clients, the Cato Institute, the Rutherford Institute, and the Constitution Project, made that argument and asked me to draft their brief.
Yes. Well, do you agree with that argument?
Senator, my responsibility was to make my clients' arguments, and as a nominee to the Supreme Court, that's the kind of issue. The Supreme Court did not address that issue. They, in fact, the case became moot.
Did you organize an effort to get 20 judges to file a brief with the Supreme Court on this issue?
Not on that issue, no, Senator.
On another issue?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. Did you actively go out and recruit 20 judges to help you file a brief on another issue regarding law of war detention?
Not technically.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that I was at Morrison and Forster, which was my law firm, in the Supreme Court and appellate group. One of the partners at Morrison and Forster was a former federal judge who wanted to make this argument and who said, I have former federal judges who are friends of mine who would like to join with me to make this argument. So I worked with her, the partner at my firm who was a former federal judge, to make...
It was her idea to get former judges to write this,
Yes.
not yours?
Yes.
And you just helped in the implementation of that idea?
So, Senator, as a member of the Supreme Court and appellate group in a law firm, that is the practice.
Right. Now I'm asking
Amicus practice, yes.
It wasn't your idea, it was somebody else?
Yes.
Okay. So now, there are people still held at Gitmo today. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. What system is in place regarding their future?
I am not aware of the system right now. I'm not sure exactly what you mean.
Let me tell you what it is.
Yes.
There's a periodic review process made up of an interagency where they go through the files of these folks and they determine whether or not they still present a threat to the United States or the world at large. And I think it's 6 months, maybe a year. But that goes on at least on an annual basis. And if there's a determination that this person still represents a threat to the United States, they're continued to be confined. That's the way the system works. Are you okay with that?
As a policy matter, Senator, I'm not speaking to my views. That's my understanding is that the periodic review system is an executive branch determination of whether or not they're going to continue to hold people that they...
Does that make sense to you as a way to deal with these detainees?
Senator, I'm not in a position to speak to the policy or the discretion of the executive branch regarding how they're going to handle detainees.
The reason I mention it is because in one of the briefs you argued that the executive branch doesn't have that option. That if you had had your way, the executive branch could not do periodic reviews about the danger the detainee presents to the United States. They would have to make a decision of trying them or releasing them. Is that not accurate?
Respectfully, Senator, it was not my argument. I was filing an amicus brief on behalf of clients, including the Rutherford Institute, the Cato Institute, and the Constitution Project, who...
When you sign on to a brief, does it not become your argument?
It does not, Senator. If you are an attorney and you are representing a client in amicus...
Is that your position when you were in private practice? I mean, you sign on to this brief making this argument, but you say it's not your position. I mean, why would you do that if it's not your position? Why would you take a client that has a position like that? Now, this is voluntary. Nobody's making you do this.
Oh, Senator, I would refer you to the same sorts of statements that Chief Justice Roberts made when he came before the committee, which is that lawyers represent clients.
I get that. I'm not holding the client's views against you. The people you represent at Gitmo, they deserve representation. But this is a amicus brief where you and other people try to persuade the court to change policy. The policy I described is a periodic review. If the court had taken the position argued in the brief that you signed upon, we'd have to release these people or try them, and some of them, the evidence we can't disclose because it's classified, you're putting America in an untenable position. This is not the way you fight a war. If you tried to do this in World War II, they'd run you out of town. We hold enemy combatants as long as they're a threat. There's no magic passage of time that you got to let them go. So my question is very simple. Do you support the idea, did you support then the idea that indefinite detention of an enemy combatant is unlawful?
Respectfully, Senator, when you are an attorney and you have clients who come to you, whether they pay or not, you represent their positions before the court.
I'm sure everybody at Gitmo wants out. No, I got that. This is an amicus brief, and I just don't understand what you're saying, quite frankly. I'm not holding it against you because you represented a legal position I disagree with. I mean, that happens all the time. I'm just trying to understand what made you join this cause. And you say somebody hired you, but did you feel okay in adopting that cause? I mean, when you signed on to the brief, were you not advocating that position to the court?
Senator, as a judge now,
okay,
in order to determine the lawfulness or unlawfulness of any particular issue, I need to receive briefs and information making positions on all sides. And
I got what a judge is all about. Listen, I'm not asking you to decide the case in front of me right here. I'm asking me to explain a position you took as a lawyer regarding the law of war, and I am beyond confused. I know what you said in your brief. Whether I agree with it or not, it's not the point. I just want you to understand that it's important for all of us to know where you were coming from. If that brief had been accepted by the court, it would be impossible for us to fight this war, because there's some people going to die in jail in Gitmo and never go to trial for a lot of good reasons, because the evidence against them is so sensitive we can't disclose it to the public. That we're not charging them with a crime. What we're doing is saying that you engaged in hostile activities against the United States, that you are an enemy combatant under our law, and you will never be released as long as you're a danger until the war is over or you're no longer a danger. That's the difference between fighting a crime and a war. Did you ever accuse in one of your habeas petitions the government of acting as war criminals for holding the detainees? The holding of the detainees by our government, that we were acting as war criminals.
Senator, I don't remember that accusation, but I will say that...
Do you believe that's true, that America was acting as war criminals in holding these detainees?
Senator, the Supreme Court held that the executive branch has the authority to detain people who are designated as enemy combatants for the duration of the hostilities. And what I was doing in the context of the habeas petitions at this very early stage in the process was making allegations to preserve issues on behalf of my clients. A habeas petition is like a complaint that lawyers make allegations.
You know, I've been a lawyer too, but I don't think it's necessary to call the government a war criminal in pursuing charges against a terrorist. I just think that's too far. I don't know why he chose those words. That's just too far. But we are where we are. So let's talk about the nomination process. Have you ever had any interaction with a group called Demand Justice?
No.
Directly or indirectly?
No.
Have you ever had any interaction with a group called American Prospect?
No.
Do you know anything about Arbella? Is that the right term? Have you ever heard of a group called Arbella?
I've heard of a group that I think is Arabella or something like that.
I think you're right. Not
Yes.
the Arabella. Yeah. Do you know anything about them? Have you had any contact with them?
No.
Okay. In your nomination, did you notice that people from the left were pretty much cheering you on?
A lot of people were cheering me on,
That's
Senator.
true. That's true. Did you know that a lot of people from the left were trying to destroy Michelle Childs? Did you notice that?
Senator, a lot of people were supporting various people for this nomination.
So you're saying you didn't know there was a concerted effort to disqualify Judge Childs from South Carolina because she was a union-busting, unreliable Republican in disguise?
Senator, I'm a sitting judge. I was focused on my cases.
Well, the answer is no, I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Would it bother you if that happened?
Senator, it is troublesome that people are or were doing things related to
I think
the
that's
nomination.
the best way to say it. People have a right to speak out and pick the person of their choice, but all I can say is that if you miss the fact that there was an organized effort, well, here's President Biden has only a certain amount of political capital for keeping his party united. If he needlessly angers progressives on this SCOTUS pick, that could create all sorts of problems for him down the line. Jeff Hauser, revolving door projects. Let's see. I just got so many quotes. It's difficult to imagine someone with a record like Judge Childs winning votes from criminal justice advocates like Senator Cory Booker, even Dick Durbin. Childs' experience is nothing like the diversity of experience that the Biden administration has championed. Let's see. Picking her, Childs, would demoralize the base, side with corporate America. The fact that Lindsey Graham is vouching for her should give the White House pause. Our revolution, Joseph Gervangi, or whatever his name is, I'm sorry about that, Joseph. He's Bernie Sanders' PAC director. You didn't know that all those people were declaring war on Judge Childs?
Senator, I did not.
Okay. Well, no, I'm not saying you did. You said you didn't know. I'll take it at your word. But I am saying that what is your judicial philosophy?
So I have a methodology that I use in my cases in order to ensure that I am ruling impartially and that...
So your judicial philosophy is to rule impartially?
No, my judicial philosophy is to rule impartially and to rule consistent with the limitations on my authority as a judge. And so my methodology actually helps me to do that in every case.
So you wouldn't say that you're an activist judge?
I would not say that.
Okay. So we'll have 20 minutes more later on, but here's what I would say. That every group that wants to pack the court, that believes this court is a bunch of right-wing nuts that are going to destroy America, that consider the Constitution trash all wanted you picked. And this is all I can say, is the fact that so many of these left-wing radical groups that would destroy the law as we know it declared war on Michelle Childs and supported you is problematic for me. Thank you.